Welcome into another edition of Hornet Nation Unfiltered. Travis Jarome. This is where we spend a lot of time talking. A lot of you want to hear the current news and the current student athletes and coaches. This is the place you come when you want to talk to the old guard. And when you say old guard, people always think about 60s and 70s. We're not going back that far, but we're going to go back to 2012, 13, 14, around that range, as we spend some time talking about volleyball today. And yes, we said volleyball, and everybody knows when you mention volleyball at Alabama State, nothing but championships come to mind. And we're going to talk to one of the key components of getting that run started, and Brooke Carter. Brooke, thanks for joining us today, and glad to have you. I know it's a little different for you because you work in the world of athletics, but thanks for taking time out to join us today.
Oh, well, thanks for inviting me. I'm definitely glad to be here and share a little bit of my story.
So let's talk about that championship tradition, because before you got to Alabama State, and, you know, we refer to that other school up north as just the little school up in North Alabama. They along with Jackson State, and when I say that, Alabama A&M and Jackson State were synonymous for winning when it came to SWAC volleyball. Whenever somebody mentioned SWAC volleyball, it was always those two schools. And you were smack dab in between, really, before you got to Alabama State. And we'll talk about that in a minute, about your journey to get to Alabama State. But you got here, and lo and behold, you get here, and the winning tradition starts. Talk about just your first year at Alabama State and just winning that first SWAC championship not soon after.
First year at Alabama State was definitely a rough patch. It was Coach White's second year. You know, she came in the first year, kind of just got the roster handed to her that she was left with, and then she started building the program that second year in 2012. And if I could say everything that could have went wrong during that season, I'm pretty sure it probably did. And we were just lucky to get through the season. I mean, we had road trips, or Coach White is allergic. She's lactose intolerant. She had a little cheese. We had bad experiences on the road. We barely won. We would stay in the locker room for hours having team conversations about why this and why that, and why don't you like this person on the team, and why does she not like you, and why are your grades like this. It was anything that could have possibly happened on a team. It happened on our team. We had 11 freshmen, and then we had myself was a junior college transfer. We had a junior college transfer, and then a few people that returned from the previous roster. But other than that, I mean, we were a brand new team, brand new staff, everything. And then the second year going into 2012, you know, we lost a few, but we remained with most of the roster, and we were able to start where we left off and not have to go through all those issues again. And 2013, we won the SWAC championship, and then we kind of kept going from there. So it's very exciting.
So you talk about and Coach White's probably going to hate me when I bring this up, but you talk about the long locker room talks. We'll blame it on you because you brought it up.
Okay, that's fine.
So you talk about the long locker room talks. It's nice to know that what we see sometimes on the road or at home started back when you were at Alabama State. And, you know, that's 8-9 seasons ago now. It's hard to believe it's been that long ago, but just – you know, talk about Coach White a little bit, and then we'll get more in depth on just your journey and everything, because obviously Coach White is Coach White. You know, she is volleyball when it comes to this state. You know, you take somebody who played at the highest level you can play at, and now she brings it to Alabama State and could possibly go and could go anywhere. Let's just not even say possibly, could go anywhere she wants to go. Just talk about what she has meant and just what she means to you and to everybody else that's come to those doors.
I definitely would say, of course, number one, she's a role model and a mentor for me. Of course, going into the coaching profession that I am in, she's been very helpful to me. And then that really started when I was, you know, a player for her. Being in the position that I was in as a setter, she may have not had, of course, she wasn't a setter, but she had abundance of knowledge with how the game worked and how to strategize and how to change the flow. And that really helped me progress in my position. And then, of course, when I got out of college and moved on from my profession, she's helped me again in those same aspects. And I think that if anybody who's ever known Coach White would know that she, yes, is your coach number one, but she's going to treat you like family, like you're one of her daughters. And you can feel that no matter if you're in the locker room, you know, in her office, on the court. no matter what, you know that she's always going to be there for you, and she's always going to be able to help you. She will help you in any way that she possibly can. So.
You hit on something when you talked about just that she'll treat you like you're one of her daughters. The biggest smile you can ever see come across Coach White's face is when you talk about her children and her family. What does that say for you, for even prospective student athletes that want to play for her? You mentioned the word family, and she instantly lights up. That's all she wants to talk about.
Yep. I would say, don't get me wrong, your coach is going to be your coach, and the fact that they're going to be hard on you and they're going to tell you what's right and what's wrong. But when it comes to doing whatever they can to help you, that's where the family aspect comes in, where the mother aspect comes in, I guess you could say. Just because they're gonna hold you responsible and accountable, but at the same time, she's gonna love you and she's gonna do everything she can in her power to help you make the right choices and to help you further your career, whatever that is, or at that time your playing career and then on into your professional career afterwards. And I mean, we loved going to her house and doing activities and her kids being involved, and I think that's what makes it feel more like a family too, when her real family comes in with her volleyball family.
Well, you mentioned the word career. We'll talk about your journey after volleyball here in just a second, but I'm going to read, and I'm going to read it verbatim from your bio. As a Division I student athlete, Carter was the captain of the Lady Hornet volleyball team at Alabama State University, named 2012 Southwestern Athletic Conference Newcomer of the Year, two-time Southwestern Athletic Conference champion, and Capital One Academic All-District team for 2 consecutive seasons. As a volleyball player at Wallace State, she was selected for the 2011 ACC Region 22 Tournament MVP and First Team All-Region. Here's the most impressive thing on your bio. She holds a Master of Accountancy and Bachelor of Science in Accounting from Alabama State University, where she graduated, folks. Listen carefully when I say this. She graduated with a 4.0. How hard is it to do that and play volleyball at the same time? We've had a football player, and I'll say this: we had a football player this past year do it. Just graduated this spring with a 4.0. But just how hard is it to balance and be able to handle all that?
I guess it depends on your personality type. Number one, for me, it really wasn't that hard. People have always called me, I guess you would say, a nerd throughout my entire schooling career, from elementary school all the way to college. And I did take pride in having that, comma 4.0 on there, especially on my resume. And I would have done, that meant maybe I didn't, after we went and watched a basketball game, and we might have went to Waffle House, but then after that, I might have just went back to the room and studied. On the road trips, I was always on the bus studying all the time. I guess you could call me a teacher's pet. I was always in my faculty member's office asking what I can do to get a better grade, what I need to do to get this grade, anything that I could have done. Study hall, even though after my first year, study hall wasn't mandatory for me, I still went to study hall, taking into account and doing anything that I possibly could with the resources that were available to get that GPA that I really wanted.
Well, we'll come back to your playing experience. Let's talk about your professional career a little bit, because people are going to wonder, you're not wearing Alabama State gear. So we'll let everybody know why you're not wearing Alabama State gear. After graduation, obviously you worked at Alabama State in the business office as a business manager. You left there, went to Wallace State Community College, where you worked in Title IX, federal financial aid. You monitored the compliance and assisted students with day-to-day financial aid processes. But now you're at Mississippi University for Women, where you serve as the assistant athletic director. And if I'm not mistaken, I thought I saw where it said interim head volleyball coach now.
That is correct.
You mean as the assistant volleyball coach in 16.
Right.
It's the interim. Just talk about just the journey from your playing days to working at Alabama State to going back to Wallace State, and then you ventured out and went somewhere that you'd never been and took that leap of faith. A lot of people don't understand in taking that leap of faith and seeing what can happen when you go somewhere else. Just talk about, in general, just your career path and why you chose to do what you did.
Well, First started out, I guess, I just kind of fell into athletics. There was a previous assistant AD or senior associate AD there at ASU that kind of said, hey, you know what? It's your senior season. It's the fall of 20, whatever it was, 14. And I think that you should be like a student worker in the athletic department. You got an accounting degree. This would be great for you. So I said, okay, let's do that. So I came in, just kind of help with whatever student workers do, you know, count tickets for football, file papers, all that good stuff. Graduated in December of 2014, right after my senior season. And then they said, hey, why don't you come and be the graduate assistant business manager? I'm like, sure. Going to get my school paid for, get a little extra money in my pocket. Why not? So I did that. That was a year-long process. It took me a year to get my master's there at ASU. During that time, though, the person who actually hired me decided that it was time for him to have a change, and he took another job somewhere else. So that just left me, the graduate assistant business manager who had just graduated from college, you know, a few months before. And the person that was going to be over me used to be over compliance. So she was kind of learning the new thing about the business side. I was learning everything about college athletics on the, you know, business side, not the sports side. So that was very interesting. But like you said, got that 4.0 GPA. So all those tiresome nights where I had to do self-study, self-research, all that stuff definitely came into play when I went into this role. I would say it was definitely unique in the fact that I went from being a player where all of this coaching staff saw me as a student athlete to the next semester. So let's say over Christmas break, 14 or 16 days, whatever we get for Christmas break, I turned into the person that was managing and looking at their budgets and telling them, oh, you can't go on that trip because you don't have enough money, or you really don't have enough money and materials to buy those shirts that you want to buy. And I would say I was very, very thankful to all of the coaches there that allowed me to transition and did not look at me as just a player anymore. They looked at me as more of a coworker, and we were able to talk about things, and they never second guessed what I had said or what my job title was or my duties. We were very open in our communication, so I had a really great experience. And I bet most universities, if you went from being a student athlete to being a coworker and it has to deal with budget, they probably would not have had the best experience like I did. So I'm very thankful that all the coaching staff that was there at the time was very helpful and appreciative, and it was good. I was very happy.
So you go from there and you go back to Wallace State.
Back to Wallace State to work in financial aid.
Talk about that transition, because now you go from being a student athlete to an employee of the university you just graduated from. Now you're going back to the junior college where it all started.
Right. And kind of the same thing. I went back there and I had made great connections with the staff members there, both in athletics and administration. Like I knew the president there very well and a lot of the other staff members. So they welcomed me with open arms, helped me with everything, especially going into something I had never done before, financial aid, learning all those federal rules. Did that for 6 months, enjoyed every bit of it. I definitely would say it's completely opposite of athletics in the fact that it's very structured. You go in, you do your job, and you can't take it home because it's people's personal information. You have to leave it at work. Not where athletics is, 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365. There's no off time. So it was definitely different in that aspect. And then I got the opportunity where this job came open at the W here in Columbus. They were starting athletics back after a 15-year hiatus. And I originally had applied for the volleyball job. Then the AD called me up and said, hey, just listen to me all the way through before you make any decisions. And I said, okay. And he said, well, I really think with your credentials and background that you'd be great as my assistant athletic director. And then, you can still be an assistant coach for volleyball and help out. And of course, I couldn't really pass up that opportunity, starting an entire athletic department, bringing in a new legacy and all that. So I took the opportunity, and here we are almost 4 years later, and I'll be the head volleyball coach and still be doing my assistant athletic director duties. So venturing to the other side of the athletic world.
So you basically to get back to where you started as far as a student athlete in your sport, you basically just had to go through school again, is what you're saying.
Pretty much,
2 or 3 years before you could get there.
Pretty much, yep, that's exactly right.
So,
it's a big circle, I guess you could say.
Well, and you know, for those listening, it's not always, and just so you kind of understand the story, things aren't always exactly how you're going to plan them out, especially in the world of college athletics. You know, you get backed into a lot of things, and things get put on your plate. But just, you know, let's go back to those playing days a little bit. You know, we talk about Alabama A&M. We talk about Jackson State. We talk about you coming in and then Coach White being in the early stages of being at Alabama State. And then you throw in a Texas Southern. You know, you sprinkle a Texas Southern in here or there. Got to put you on the spot, though. Which was for you when you were playing, which was the biggest rival? Because it's kind of fluctuated over the last few years as to which one of those three is the toughest.
I would say probably Jackson State. Their fans were always really intense. There would be, I would think probably every single match that we ever played against them, that somebody on both of our teams was going to get at least like a warning of some type for yelling through the net at the other team. It was always really intense when we played each other. Like I said, the fans were always at our fans, and it just didn't matter wherever we played them, if we played them at home or away or at a neutral site, it didn't matter. I felt like that those games were always the most intense. And they were such a scrappy and unpredictable team that there were some sets you're just like, well, how did they even win that set? I don't even know how they scored those points. So where some of the other teams we play, like Alabama and A&M, they might be a little more structured, so they're a little bit easier to manage and understand how the game is flowing, but not when you're playing Jackson. For sure.
When you go back and look at things, and Jackson was the last team to win and broke is the only team that stands in the middle of you know, Alabama State and winning all the SWAC championships. How much, since you named them as probably your toughest and biggest rival, how much does that sit with you when you look at it and say, okay, we could have really run the table and we could have won 8 straight, but they won that one year?
It just makes me think how unpredictable things can be. Just like I said, they're always that type of team. They're just so unpredictable. You never know what's going to happen with them. And that's definitely hard in the game of volleyball because it's such a fast-paced game, and being so unpredictable like that, it definitely makes you think, you know, kind of switching topics a little bit, but not. Before they went to the championship this past season, you know, Coach White brought me in and asked me to talk to the team a little bit. And I kind of told them the same thing what I'm about to tell you, is that, you know, you're going to regret this. You're going to regret not holding yourself accountable and not being responsible for the actions that you take every day at practice. And then it goes into the game. And looking back now, you know, of course we won my junior and senior year, but looking back to my sophomore year, yeah, we had 11 freshmen and only 3 returners or 4 returners on our team. But I felt like we still could have done better as a team and probably overcome the obstacles that we had on the court and off the court faster. That way, by the time we got to the end of the season, we maybe wouldn't have regretted how we played in the tournament and, you know, didn't get the opportunity to get the chance to compete. Because I believe we lost in the semifinals that year, so didn't even really get the chance to make it to the finals and compete for that first place. So.
And so you stole the thunder, because I was going to go back and talk about you going in and talking to the team this year, because you know, as an alum, and you follow the program, and you know how well the program had been doing. When you saw how they struggled early, and really struggled going into conference play, and then dropped a couple matches here or there, what was going through your mind as a former player? Was it one of those you wanted to pick up the phone and call Coach White and say, Coach, you know, I want to come talk to the kid, I want to come talk to the girls? Or is it one of those you just kind of sit back from afar and say, okay, but I know who's sitting on the sideline, I know who's leading the program?
I guess kind of in the middle, like I did in that first one, like say anything. I was like, man, Coach White is really, you know, they're struggling this year. I don't know what's going on. They really did. I mean, they lost some people, but a lot of people on their roster this year played last year. Me and Coach White had kind of talked throughout the season about some captain issues that she'd been having. So I kind of knew a little bit about what was going on the team. And then I remember I called her and I said, hey, Coach, I'm coming down to watch some recruits play over at the Crampton Bowl. Hey, what time are you practicing? Can I stop by? And she said, oh, yes, that would be great. I would love if you could say something to the team. So I did. I stopped by, and I'm not one to hold back or be shy about what I'm thinking. And after I watched them warm up for 15 minutes, and Coach White wasn't even in the gym yet. She was upstairs preparing for practice, and I was watching them warm up. And when it was my turn to talk, I just went ahead and told her, I said, I'm sorry, I don't want to throw you under the bus, but this is not how we would have warmed up as a team when I was here. We just wouldn't have. And as a captain, I would have never let that happen, the way they were warming up and handling themselves before Coach got in the gym, because when you're not, holding yourself accountable and responsible, or holding the person next to you accountable and responsible, you can clearly see what the outcomes are. You're not connecting on the court. For some reason, you might get to the end of the game and other teams are beating you. It's just because you're not disciplined all the time. And I told them that, and hopefully it made some sense to some of them, and they changed the way they did things. But it really was just watching them like, oh my gosh, if Coach White was to walk down here right now, we would have been on the line doing Indian run for 30 minutes around the gym. And we would have just ran for 30 minutes, because that is not how we hold ourselves before a game, before practice, before anything. That was just not how we did things.
Let me ask you this, and then we'll go back to some other things. I have to ask, and I ask different players when they come back. Obviously, Coach White's pedigree speaks for itself. She was one of the best outside. She was one of the hardest hitters when she played. And you talk about drills. Did she hit it as hard on the defensive drills as she does now?
Oh, yes. I mean, and so you have to be that type of player. And don't get me wrong, that first year, I was not the type of player like, okay, Coach, bring it on, hit it harder. But after that first year, you kind of get some competitiveness off of how competitive she is. And then you want her to swing harder and harder so you can dig it. And, the better you are at defending her balls, then surely you can defend these other people that you're playing's balls. So I think you definitely feed off her competitiveness, too, when she's back there with her hat backwards. That's when it's game time. And she's just wailing balls at you. So
when you talk about how volleyball is unpredictable, you've played it, you've coached it. After not winning the 1 year where it broke the streak and then the streak started back, in your eyes, and this is a number when you compare it to other schools and to other records, was up there. I mean, it was in the top 15 of longest streaks in straight conference. How difficult is it for a team to rattle off 44 straight conference wins against conference opponents, which is what Coach White did with that program after losing to Jackson State? They reeled off 44 in a row, and mentally you could see the number as it started getting closer and closer to 50. You could see mentally it started to wear a little bit, but just how hard is it to win 44 straight against the same teams you play every year?
I would definitely say it's a mental game. And that's one thing, that Coach White always talked about with us in the locker room, before and after games, before and after practice, that, mentally you have to be prepared for something like that. And you have to know that, you can't change what our game plan is and what your game plan is as a player just because you think at that particular moment that whatever you're thinking at that moment is the best that's going to happen. But it's not. I guess that's really hard to say. It's all a mental game. And when you start thinking about, I can't make this mistake, or I can't do this because it's going to mess up this streak, or, well, this team, all they ever want to do is beat us and they talk about us on social media or whatever, then that's when you start letting the mental game win against you. So it's definitely tough as a player, but I think that's where Coach White kind of steps in most of the time, and she can help you out with your mental game as a player. And I think that's why she's had so much success, because she's so good at the mental game. Yeah, you can know the volleyball skills, but
oh yeah, when you watch things from afar. 3 years ago, it may have been 3 years ago, they ventured to Birmingham. They've always played the the Power Five and they always try to win a set from a Power Five school. The goal is to always compete against a Group of Five school. As an alum, when they went up to Birmingham and beat UAB, how big of a smile did you get? Because I know as an alum, that's one of the biggest things when you can say, hey, I used to play for them. That's my coach. And they just went up and won a match on their home floor.
Yeah. I was definitely very excited. And it kind of took me back to my senior year. We went and played UAB there.
Yep.
And the only reason I remember it so specifically is because we had went to good old Texas Southern. We drove that trip out there, played. It was just not a good trip. Went out there, and the officials had the wrong date. So we were supposed to play on, let's say it was Saturday that we were supposed to play on. They thought we were playing on Sunday. So we waited around in the gym for hours and hours for them to find officials. So finally we get officials at whatever time it was. Like maybe we were supposed to play at 2. The officials probably didn't get there till like 7. It was a long day. So we finally played the game. First set, it was 24-24. And I remember that my middle, Amber Bennett, I was running the 5-1. She came down on my ankle. And I was like, Coach, I can't walk. So she took me out, went over there and looked at it. They kind of taped me up the best they could. We ended up losing the first set, 26-24. And I was like, Coach, I think I can go back and play. Like, I'm fine. I can do this. So we went back out. We played 5 sets with them. And I ran a 5-1 for set 2, 3, and 4. And then I think the adrenaline started to run off. I was like, okay, Coach, I don't know if I can play this 5th set all the way around. Like, my ankle is really hurting. So we went back to a 6-2 for that 5th set there. And I'm pretty sure we ended up losing. I really don't remember. I'm thinking we probably lost. But I remember after the game, they had to carry me into Golden Corral because I couldn't walk. Drove all the way back Sunday, from that 8 to 10 hour trip from Texas that it is, my foot up on the bus the whole time. Well, we had practice Monday because we were playing UAB on Tuesday. And kind of like you said, when you play those type of teams, you want to compete and you want to be able to do it. So I told Coach and said, Coach, I'm playing on Tuesday. Like, I'm going to be fine. Well, they taped me up for practice on Monday, and I made it through an hour of practice before I couldn't even walk anymore. And then Tuesday, I remember sitting in the training room, the other trainers from the other team were looking at my ankle like, oh, my gosh, you can actually walk on that? I was like, it's okay, I'm fine. But like you said, that competitiveness when playing those type of teams, like, I was not going to give it up. No matter if I could walk or not, I was playing in that game. And I feel like I gave all I could definitely for what I could do, but I was not going to give up playing against a team like that. So all in all, if we want to continue with this story, my same teammate, Amber Bennett, after I was in it, that was my left ankle that happened to. So I was in and out of boot for the rest of the season, still played, but just in and out of boot. And then our spring season, she came down on my foot again. This time it was the right ankle. And I was like, this time when I hit the ground, I said, Coach White, I know that this time it's bad. So I had to walk down to the trainer room. And, from Lockhart to the football facility, you have to go down the stairs. So I went down the stairs and got down there, and it was just like a poor GA trainer down there. So she really couldn't do anything. So the head trainer came and picked me up, took me over. And then the next week I ended up having ankle reconstruction surgery. So luckily that did not put me out for my upcoming senior year, but that all journey started, I guess you could say, in Texas Southern with my teammate Amber Bennett and my ankle injuries.
So while we're talking about road trips, kind of go back in your memory bank and let's talk about the best road trip you can remember.
Best road trip? I don't know. I feel like there were a lot of road trips, and we watched a lot of movies on the road. We went a lot of places. I vaguely remember when we went to Arizona my first year there, my sophomore year, I felt like that was a road trip that we probably would never get to do again because, of course, we went to Arizona State. Their facility was 3-4 times bigger than any facility that I had ever played and ever seen. Of course, the air there was different. It was a little bit harder to play volleyball, and the ball was moving more than we had ever seen before. their campus looked like that it was, I mean, they had little shops on their campus and road signs, and it was kind of in the mountain area. It was really beautiful. And we're thinking, wow, we understand why people go to school here, because why would you not want to go to this type of place? But I mean, I feel like every road trip, we always had some kind of good time doing something, always goofing off or acting up, always on the bus. It was never a dull moment with our team on the bus, for sure. So.
Well, let's ask this, and this is the question that we generally try to ask everybody at the end. But I got one more for you after that, because we're going to talk about we're going to ask you about your career journey after that. But why Alabama State?
Well, it actually started. So my mom has been a coach for 30 years, and she coached volleyball, basketball, softball, that good stuff. But she actually went to the coaching clinic in Montgomery in 2012. That's when it was. And Coach White was the guest speaker there, you know, going into her second season at ASU. And my mom was like, you know what? I think that you would really like her. I think that y'all have a lot of the same, you know, personality traits and things like that when it comes to how you view volleyball and play volleyball. I really think that you should talk to her. So we did. We emailed her, and she responded back, and she said, you know what? Well, we're actually looking for a setter for this upcoming season. And at the time, I was still at my junior college, and I really hadn't had thoughts of leaving, to be honest. I enjoyed playing there. I had played for that coach for 3 years in club, and I was playing for him a year in college. So I really didn't have any plans to leave. But when she kind of presented that opportunity to me, I was like, okay, well, let's give this a try. So it came down for a visit. It was in April. I remember that, and just loved the campus. I loved that it was big enough but not too big. Of course, loved the facilities. We had our own facility, and of course, we had the opportunity to play in the Acadome when we had tournaments. And the number one thing is Coach White. I mean, I came here to play for her, I feel like. And then in the end, ASU just kind of became a part. You know, of course, I played there and then got 2 degrees from there and then worked there afterwards. So it's definitely a big part of my life and made a huge impact. But I guess the number one reason that I came there was for her. And then I've made a lot of friends there, even some faculty members that I still communicate with and call on all the time. So staff members all over who've moved all over the country, and coaches, especially working where I am now. You know, the friends that I've made and the acquaintances and coworkers that definitely helped me with where I am now, for sure.
Last question for you, and this is kind of ties into what you just said and where your career has taken you now. The impact of Coach White. Now you get to run your own volleyball program. How important was she in that, and how much are you going to take away from her and what she did for you as a student athlete now into being that head coach of your own program?
It's definitely very important. I'm going to continue to call on her just like I have. Even though I was an assistant coach, I still, you know, call and ask her questions. I think, like I kind of said before, the biggest thing that I'll probably call on her is because she's really good at the mental game. And I didn't really have a big problem mentally. I was always headstrong, and sometimes me and Coach White didn't see eye to eye a lot of times, but we both had the same end goal, so we always made it work. And I think that as an up-and-coming coach and starting my own team, that she's going to be heavily relied on. And I like the drills that she ran in practice, that we're looking from like a actual volleyball skill side. I liked how we ran practices, and now I'm going to kind of transition that into my own practices. And I really want to be the coach that is on that personal level with the players, kind of like she was with me. I want them to feel as I'm a part of their family and be able to call on me after they graduate, because that's what's most important. We're making impacts on people for the future, not just for this now and this moment. You want this impression that you make on them to be a lasting impression, and hopefully a positive impression. We definitely don't want to leave any negative ones. So I'm definitely using her as a role model and a mentor when it comes to how I want to build my program for the next 5, 10, 20 years, whatever it takes.
Well, Brooke, we appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. I know it's like everybody else. It seemed to be working more that we're not in the normal. But again, appreciate you taking time out and joining us here and telling your story to Hornet Nation.
All right. Well, thank you for having me, and good luck this season for sure for everyone at ASU.
Same to you. And folks, that's Brooke Carter. who who played a part in what started as the run of Southwestern Athletic Conference Championships for Alabama State and Women's Volleyball 2012 SWAC Newcomer of the Year, academic all-district, 2 times graduate with a 4.0 assistant athletic director and head volleyball coach now at the Mississippi University for Women. For Brooke Carter, this is Travis Jarome saying thank you for listening. We'll talk to you again next time. You've been listening to Hornet Nation Unfiltered. We'll be back next week with another special guest from Alabama State's past. Until next time.